Welcome back to the channel. So, have you ever wondered if I stay with my baby or if I stay with my child at bedtime, will they ever learn to sleep on their own or will I have to be next to them forever? So, if that's what you're asking yourself, this video is for you. Okay. So, I'm Jamie. I am a developmental pediatrician. I'm also a coach. And you all know who Coach Daniel is. So today's video, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about whether or not you need to be next to your baby at nighttime for them to be able to fall asleep. All right. So we've heard the parents really mention this. I've heard that if a child doesn't learn to fall asleep by themselves, I'll have to stay with them forever. So what do you think about this, Coach Daniel?
Yeah, I think this is a very common concern and one that I've had myself. Not really. I was never like overly concerned about it, but I can relate with this because you know um, my kids wanted one of us to be with them until they fell asleep, and sometimes I felt like it took forever. And you kind of have those questions pop up in your mind, like, oh my gosh, they're 7 years old, they're 8 years old, they're 9 years old. How much longer will I have to do this? Or when will they ever like just fall asleep like you think everybody else's kids do? Like I remember being so happy actually when our neighbor said that their kid who was like 12 or 13 is like, oh yeah, I'm still sleeping next to him. I was like, oh good, it's not only me. But
Not
anyways,
only me, yeah.
I just want to highlight that this is a very very common concern, and I think a lot of people will really benefit from knowing that they're not the only ones, and also by understanding that we actually are not creating a problem by
Right,
simply
right.
staying next to our children as they're falling asleep, and understanding that can be really really helpful.
Right. So I think this comes from so when someone usually what happens is a parent voices this concern and then usually what they say, "Oh, you should put the baby into the crib before they fall asleep and leave the room." So sort of like having you extract yourself from the bedroom for them to first learn to fall asleep on their own, right? And so the idea is you have to take yourself away from bedtime, and that way they don't need any parental presence for them to be able to fall asleep. And so this sets up sleep as sort of a skill or as a behavior. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's not true. I don't think sleep is a behavior or a skill at all. I think sleep is a passive, effortless process that happens all by itself. It happens automatically when two conditions are met. One is that there needs to be some sleep drive. Our body needs to have some sort of urge for sleep, which is simply built up by wakefulness. And at the end of the day, your child will have some sleep drive. That is the sure thing. And the other condition is that we want to feel safe. So
Mhm.
none of us human beings will ever fall asleep in a situation where we somehow think there's a threat, there's a danger, I'm not safe here. And that's all. And sleep just happens by itself when there's some sleep drive and we're feeling safe. It's not a skill at all. And the tricky thing becomes when we start to think of it as a skill, we think of it as something that can be trained, something that can be manipulated, something that can be controlled, something that can be achieved, which leads its own set of problems.
Right. So I like that we're highlighting here is that sleep is not in fact a skill or not even a behavior, right? But is in fact a natural passive physiologic process that happens. And it happens when those conditions like you just mentioned are met, right? So okay, so why are we told that sleep associations are a problem?
Yeah, I think this is because, like, one of the cornerstones of modern psychology is behaviorism. It is thinking of the human experience through the lens of, like, Skinner and Pavlov, and that type of understanding. So people can start to think that, aha, A follows B. Like, if a dog hears a sound and thinks the sounds means food, they'll start salivating. Ah, sleep is like that too. A child will fall asleep when they have correctly associated the bed with sleep, and they've correctly associated the bed being in the bed alone. They've associated that with sleep. That's good. But if the kid associates sleep with having their parent there, then that's not good because they will not fall asleep. I think that's where this kind of idea comes from. It comes from looking at sleep as a behavior through a kind of behavioristic lens. Now, that's why I think we're told this, and yeah, why we're told that you as a parent being present is a problem, because that's going to be the association that will be present forever, and your child will never quote unquote learn to fall asleep by themselves. That's where that's where we're told that.
So it's actually helpful to reframe having a parent there not as a sleep association, but more as a source of feeling safe. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. Again, it's that second condition. We humans, young or old, we don't fall asleep when we think we are not safe. And a little child is, I wouldn't say in this day and age that there's a true threat to them in any shape or form. Like, they aren't actually vulnerable when they're in their own room. But our brain has evolved through like thousands of years, and there was a time where being alone at night as a child was
What's it?
truly vulnerable. It was really dangerous. Like, somebody, some predator could snatch the little child, right? So
Right.
children have evolved to want to be connected near somebody else at bedtime for this reason. So it's perfectly normal that children don't want to be alone at night. So yeah, that's the reality. It's like it's not a behavior that requires some kind of association or anything like that.
All right. Okay. So going back, so what is the problem with being told that this sleep association is in fact a problem?
Yes, absolutely. So I think this is the gist of it. So what happens when we start to think, oh no, I'm staying near my child at night. I'm creating a bad habit, and I'm going to be here forever. And I don't want to do that. What now happens is that bedtime, instead of becoming kind of like something that we look at like, oh, I just have to do this, or this is just something that happens right now in this phase of my child developing or growing, we think, I'm doing something bad. I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I still doing this? We create this
Mm,
inner conflict. We're dreading bedtime, and we might try to like break the association by not being there, by saying bye bye, by doing like cry it out or something like that. And then we become even more distressed because our child is not terrified and they're screaming, and we feel bad, and we feel all conflicted. And then bedtime becomes this thing that has like a huge struggle component, something we dread, something we don't want to experience. And then let's say we go back to going like, okay, well, I clearly this isn't working. I'm going to stay next to my child, but we still have this inner conflict. Then we're not at peace. So we're next to our child in bed at bedtime, but we're frustrated. We may be upset. We're frazzled, right?
mhm.
And the child senses that. So they're not even getting that sense of peace of mind and safety, even though we're next to them, which creates kind of an ongoing struggle, even when that
Right.
that circumstance where we're next to them is met. And so this is why it becomes like a real struggle, and why it's a problem to be told that staying next to your child at bed is a problem.
All right. Yeah, that's definitely the loop that we need to be aware of, and that actually it starts with us kind of feeling, knowing that we're safe, that we're everything, there's really no threat, and that when we know that, then we can share the calm with our child or baby during bedtime. All right. Okay, so what should we do if we are staying next to our child and we've been worried we have to do this forever? It's hard. That's a hard question. I say, what should we do?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Again, it's tricky because like when we say what should I do, it
Yeah, it
can even
asks you
apply.
for practical things to do, right? For bedtime. So knowing this, so yeah, what should they do?
Yeah, I think something that can be really helpful is just to look at things, with the kind of a realistic mindset, and look at all adults in the world. Like, there is no adult in the world who needs their parent next to them to fall asleep, which in and of itself um negates this kind of prophecy around, like, you have to stay there forever. That never happens. Actually, I would say it's exceptionally rare even that a teenager, needs their child next to them to
Yeah.
fall asleep. That would be very unusual,
Very unusual. Yeah.
so when we see this, we can see, like, oh, so it always self-resolves. Like, it never becomes the thing that this idea that I have to stay with my child forever, that never happens. It's a non-issue. Like, it never becomes reality. So I think that's really, really helpful to see. And where that then leads is to a place where we're like, okay, this is not forever, but for now, my child wants me to be next to them. They're a little bit frazzled, a little bit scared, right? And it's okay for me to be next to them. Then instead of this big conflict, it can be like, okay, so what can I do with my child or by myself next to them at bedtime that makes me feel like I'm having an okay time? It's a nice time. Maybe I can read a book with them. Maybe we can listen to some podcasts together, or maybe I want to do something. Maybe I can just play chess on my phone, which I used to do, and my child just like reads a book or something like that. And then things just totally change, because now instead of dreading the evening, we're like looking
Looking
forward
forward
to it,
to it.
or at least finding it's kind of neutral, like a neutral thing.
Right.
And then this whole struggle, it like fades away. So I think that is really a helpful way to approach this situation, or this phase of life in our child.
That's great. Now, all right. So I think that was really helpful. And I think what I've learned from this time we have today is that, again, sleep is really not a skill or behavior to be manipulated or to be learned, but it is a passive physiologic process that happens if we let it, right? And the most important thing is knowing our role in this emotion regulation that is required, or at least is helpful, I should say, at bedtime. All right. So if you have questions about sleep associations or what to do at bedtime, you can comment or ask in a comment section. And for now, I think that's it, right?
I think you summed it up very nicely.
All right. Okay. We'll see you next time. Have a good week. Bye bye.